Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're exploring something that feels like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie. We're talking about a mind-bending new reality, an era researchers are literally calling synthetic somnology. Just imagine a world where sleep is no longer a required biological shutdown, where you can get the profound restorative powers of a full night's rest while your eyes are wide open and your body is completely active. So what if sleep is actually just a brain rhythm? And what if we can fake it? Let's dive right into this because recent breakthroughs are setting a radically new and honestly slightly terrifying paradigm in neuroscience. Scientists are literally decoupling the benefits of sleep from the physical act of being unconscious. They're finding out that sleep might not be a state of being at all, but just a highly specific electrical rhythm. And you know what that means? If it's just a rhythm, it can totally be hacked. To understand how they're doing this, we've got to look at deep sleep, or what's called slow wave sleep. See, this isn't just your brain flipping an off switch. It's actually a super active computational state. Your brain generates these synchronized delta waves, alternating between intense electrical spiking and then total silence. It's doing something called synaptic homeostasis. Basically, it's a pruning process. It's clearing out all those weak neural connections you formed during the day so your brain doesn't just overload. It's the ultimate reset button. But what if we could hit that reset button without ever actually going to sleep? That brings us to section 1, hacking awake mice with light. Okay, so traditionally, we've always thought the brain and the body had to shut down together, right? But researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Madison just shattered the idea. They managed to force localized slow-wave sleep rhythms in just one hemisphere of a mouse's brain. And here's the crazy part. The mouse itself, completely awake. It's actively running around and navigating its environment while a part of its brain is literally fast asleep. The whole biohacking nature of this experiment is just wild. They used optogenetics, which is basically controlling neurons with light. First, they kept the mice awake for 5 hours to build up this massive need for sleep. Then, using implanted fiber optic cables, they literally beamed precise pulses of blue light straight into the animals' brains. These pulses perfectly mimicked the on-off electrical rhythms of deep sleep. So they're inhibiting local neural networks, forcing the brain into sleep mode, while the mouse stays wide awake. And it only took 30 minutes. Just a 30-minute burst of this artificial light rhythm to completely rescue the sleep-deprived mouse's tactile memory. When scientists looked at the stimulated part of the brain, biochemically it was indistinguishable from a mouse that had been sleeping naturally for hours. The brain was completely refreshed, and the animal never even closed its eyes. But the science quickly escalated from flashing lights in rodents to something even closer to home. Section 2, the artificial primate nap. Check this out. In a totally groundbreaking study from Houston Methodist, Weill Cornell, and Rice University, scientists took macaque monkeys and completely wore them out with really complex visual tasks. But instead of letting them catch up on sleep, they bypassed it altogether. They applied a low-frequency 4 Hz electrical microstimulation directly to the monkey's visual cortex. They essentially gave them an artificial nap. And the result? It instantly restored their visual accuracy right back to fully rested levels. Boom. Just like that. So why exactly does a tiny electrical zap work like a nap? Well, while sleep itself is highly synchronized, all those neurons firing together in waves, the whole goal of sleep is actually the exact opposite. Sleep physically weakens connections so that when you wake up, your neurons are desynchronized. This cortical desynchronization means your neurons can fire independently and super efficiently. It massively boosts your brain's capacity to process new information. So that 4 Hz zap, it just forced that desynchronization to happen on demand while the monkeys were wide awake. Dr. Valentin Dragoi, the lead author on this study, put it pretty bluntly. Our results provide proof of concept for stimulation procedures to improve perceptual performance in the absence of sleep. Think about the sheer weight of that statement for a second. The barrier between sci-fi movies and actual human neuromodulation, yeah, it's just been shattered. And that leads us into some seriously mind-bending, almost terrifyingly awesome territory. Section 3, the end of lost hours. I mean, imagine never dealing with brain fog again. The potential human applications here are radical. We're talking about forcing these slow-wave rhythms to cure things like fatal familial insomnia, which is this horrifying disease where your brain actually forgets how to sleep and it eventually kills you. By bypassing the damaged parts of the brain and electrically inducing these rhythms, we could literally save lives. And outside the clinic,
Think about astronauts on long-haul deep space missions, or special forces operatives who need to stay sharp for days without accruing catastrophic sleep debt. And the craziest part, this isn't some far-off theoretical tech. There are actual non-invasive devices being developed right now to bring this kind of biohacking directly to the consumer market. We're talking scalp arrays that deliver 4 Hz alternating currents, wearable headbands that use subsensory acoustic tones, and even electrodes implanted just under the skin. Make no mistake, the race to commercialize the artificial nap is already well underway.
Okay, but let's ground this excitement for a second, because there is a stark biological limitation here. While we can easily fake the electrical reset of the brain in just 20 or 30 minutes to get your cognition back, that quick zap is nowhere near enough time to trigger the lymphatic system. That's your brain's biological plumbing. It physically washes away all the toxic metabolic waste that builds up over the day, and it absolutely requires prolonged, natural sleep cycles to do its job. Basically, you can fake the software reset, but the hardware, it still needs a deep physical scrub. Which brings our pacing to a sudden, chilling halt with our final section, what is sleep anyway?
Because researchers at MIT recently found something deeply unsettling. When you're severely sleep deprived, you start having these tiny, split-second microlapses in attention. And during those microlapses, the brain involuntarily triggers massive, synchronized waves of cerebral spinal fluid. Your brain is literally hijacking its own waking state, violently washing these sleep-like fluid waves through your cortex while you're standing there with your eyes open, just trying to pay attention. Your brain gets so desperate that it physically tries to wash itself while you're awake.
And that leaves us with one incredibly haunting question. We've always thought of sleep as this unified, unconscious state. But now we know it's really just this fragmented collection of electrical rhythms, network resets, and fluid waves, all of which can be hacked, triggered, and completely faked in a fully awake brain. So, if we can simulate the deeply restorative powers of sleep with a simple 4 Hz electrical pulse, did we ever actually understand what sleep was to begin with? Or is the machine inside your skull vastly more hackable than you ever dared to imagine?